FaceApp isn't sending your camera roll directly to Russia.
I'll show you how you can browse more privately.
And here's what you need to know about iOS's privacy settings.
It's time for iOS Today!
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
iOS Today is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile provides the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost, because everything is online. To get your new wireless plan for $15 a month, get the plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/iOS. And by Aftershok's unbelievably comfortable open-ear headphones. Hear music and crystal clear phone calls like never before. Visit iostoday.aftershoks.com and use the code iOS Today for $50 off the tech bundle. And by Crest. The Crest 3D Whitening Kit removes over 10 years of tough, set-in stains to give you noticeably whiter teeth. 100% guaranteed. For $20 off your first Crest 3D Whitening Strip Kit, go to crestwhitesmile.com and enter the promo code iOS Today at checkout. iOS Today time. Hello, Mikah Sargent.
Hello, Leo/Leo Laporte. I hear people say, which one am I supposed to be saying?
You should say Leo, because if you say Leo, they're going to think you're making it up.
All right, Leo. You can call me
it's Leo.
Mikah.
Leo is my real name. L-E, accent aigu, acute accent of the E-O. But I only use that in my private life. Who told you my name was Leo? Did somebody, it was a little bird in your ear?
Someone's been pronouncing it that way.
Oh,
and
my
I thought,
wife.
Oh my God, have I been saying it wrong this whole time?
No, you've been saying it right, Leo. What happened was, so when I first got into radio, 143 years ago, at that time, nobody used their own name. You know, you were Johnny Walker or something like that, right? And so I'm in the car going to do my first show like in 10 minutes. I'm sure this is how most porn star names also appear. And I had to think up something quickly, so I came up with the worst possible name, Dave Allen. So for my first radio job, I was Dave Allen. And then when I got another job, I thought, well, and I moved from the little market of Monterey, California to the big market of San Jose. I thought, well, here's my chance. I can get a better name. So I called myself, get ready, Dan Hayes.
I thought this is when Leo was going to come in, but no.
Purple Haze, right? Something interesting. But then I kept saying Dave because I forgot. So then I became Daniel David Hayes, which was, now admittedly, this was the 80s, so that was okay.
That's a wonderful name.
Daniel David Hayes.
Daniel David Hayes.
But when I finally got to the big city, San Francisco, I thought, finally, I can use my own name. And I told the program director, I'm going to be Leo Laporte. That's what my parents called me. That was my dad's name. My father's name was Leo. My grandfather's name was Léon. My great-grandfather's name was Léon. It's a very old French name, Léo Laporte, a French-Canadian name. So I thought, well, finally I can use my own name. And the programmer director said, no, you can't. It sounds gay.
What? When was this again?
Yeah, really. When was this? There's no excuse. So,
golly gee.
Yeah. So I said, thanks for letting me know. How about, well, it's spelled Leo. It's what it says on my driver's license. Can I use Leo? He said, yes. That sounds more macho.
Oh my God.
So I've been ever since for a long time in radio, Leo Laporte. But but my family name, my parents know me as Leo. My wife it was very confusing for Lisa because she worked with me long before we started dating, so she called me Leo for years. So that's why she switches back and forth.
Gotcha.
You now know more than you probably ever cared to know about any of this.
That whole story, honestly, fascinating to me. Because I was like, okay.
You got the job, Mikah. You don't have to lie. It's okay.
You think I'm lying, but I'm not. I love it. It's good stuff. So, Leo.
So if there is a tie-in to this, because this episode today, we're going to talk about privacy.
Nice.
And if you were smart, and a lot of people your age, when they first started using Facebook as students, didn't use their real names, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you
or
do
their
that?
real birthdays.
Yeah, they faked it.
I was late to the game with Facebook, so I had fake names for other things like Zanga and MySpace and all those. But as far as Facebook, I didn't join Facebook until I was in high school, and by that time, you didn't have to have a fake birthday, so I was able to get on it with my actual name at the time.
So a lot of people now, having gone through high school and college with Facebook, have created new Facebook accounts so that their employers won't see pictures of them. And either they have new accounts that are tied to their old account, but slightly different. Like their old account was their real name, so then they use like their middle name, or they have their real name and their old account had some old bad name. I think my daughter used a fake name and now uses her real name. So that I think is not uncommon, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. I know a lot of folks who had accounts that it's like a slight adjustment to their name. So
I think many of you probably wish you had done that. Right?
Yeah. I think there are quite a few people out there who probably thought, oh man, I wish I could get rid of those photos and that account.
So that's why we're talking about privacy today. Basically, whenever you go online and put something online, even if you've been promised it's private, often it's not. And so today we're going to talk about privacy using your iPad or your iPhone, your Apple Watch, your Apple TV, and even your computer in a more private way, given that if you're posting stuff on the internet, it's going to be hard to keep it private. So let's start, and this all started because of FaceApp.
There you go. Yep, exactly. So we had we talked about FaceApp last time, and I had talked a little bit about how when it first came out, there were privacy concerns back in 2017, and then now that it's picked up, there are more privacy concerns, and at this point, it even went as far as Senator Schumer asking the FBI and the FTC to conduct a federal national security and privacy investigation.
More than that, look at Senator Schumer's Twitter account. A warning for all Americans. Millions downloaded FaceApp from a Russia-based company. Warn friends and family about the deeply troubling risk that your facial data could fall into the hands of something like the Russian intelligence or military. He even made a video that he played back saying, oh. Now, first of all.
Is this Red Scare 2.0?
This is, in a way, it is. First, and by the way, the Democratic National Committee also told all the candidates for 2020 for president not to use FaceApp. Now, first of all, if Russia didn't know what they looked like by now, it's probably too late. But
their photos are already in FaceApp too. We know, like someone's uploaded their faces to FaceApp already.
Yeah, and frankly, if you use Facebook, do you use a picture of yourself? Are there any pictures of you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp? Do you ever send pictures of yourself through the mail? Your picture is out there. So that concern we can eliminate. In fact, the FaceApp folks say, "Oh no. We're a Russian company." The guy who created it actually created it when he was at Microsoft here in the States, in Seattle. We're a Russian company, but we are, and when you use FaceApp, it says we're now uploading your picture to our servers. Those servers are in the US. They're on Amazon and Google.
Amazon and Google, exactly.
So then what's the other concern? Well, it's the privacy statement in FaceApp. I think that scared a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, we and it's only, I think, because we're paying attention to this one. This one gets called out, and I really, if I had the time and desire, I would love to print out some privacy policies of different social media companies and just highlight how these passages are incredibly similar to other apps and services that are out there. It says we can, with the photos that you upload, we can use them however we want to. It's, there's no asking for further permission or anything like that. If we want to use your photos for our advertisements, etc., then we have that right because you uploaded the photo to our server. Do you agree to that? Yeah. And by using the app, you agree to it.
It scared people because FaceApp did what a lot of companies do. And remember, Instagram did this, and there was such an uproar, they pulled back. But they used what I call default lawyer boilerplate, which in most agreements, absent any sensible person prevailing, the lawyer is going to put in the agreement, you give us all rights to everything forever, now and in perpetuity in any media that may exist or be invented. And the reason I know this is because that was always in our releases when people came to visit Tech TV. Your image is ours, baby, because you're in our studio. That's lawyer boilerplate. You're going to see in a lot of agreements, but you shouldn't be scared by it. It just means that they were lazy and they just, said, we want all rights. However, it's completely legitimate to start thinking about this. And the thing that encourages me about all this, Mikah, is that people did start thinking about it. It's as if Chuck Schumer had never been on the internet before. I think he was misinformed by his staffer. But this is basically the same kind of agreement you make on many, many sites. And even if you didn't, your picture is everywhere. But you should be concerned because it's hard to change your face. It's hard to change your fingerprint. It's hard to change your DNA. And when Apple first started doing Touch ID on the iPhone and then later Face ID, they were very careful to say, look, that data, that fingerprint data is stored in the secure enclave on your phone, is not uploaded to Apple. We don't get it. People were concerned, but Apple said we don't get it. Face app doesn't make that same assertion. So I think it's good for people to step back and think, but the point is not just about Face app, but everything you do online.
Everything. And what I like about this is there's this concern that, especially for people who are privacy advocates, that apathy is going to win out for those companies that want to scoop up a lot of data like Facebook and others. And so to see this where people hear, okay, here's how it's happening and here's what's happening, and they go, oh, that's a problem. I want to know more. That's wonderful because it means that people are going to be less likely to just say, I don't care about that. Here's this, here's this, here's this. And that does feel good. That feels like progress. I think the problem that I have with this whole situation and why I, said Red Scare 2.0 is like we're talking about. These privacy policies are boilerplate and very similar to other companies that are out there. And so say my friend Liz from Russia is, an individual person and she makes an app that can calculate caloric data for food that you eat. So flashback to last iOS today. I download that app and use it, and the information is stored in the cloud, and then everything's fine. People are using the app, but then suddenly they find out it's in Russia. And everything else goes out the window. It doesn't matter that app helped them. It doesn't matter that app is just run by one individual person, my friend Liz from Russia. No, that doesn't matter anymore. Now we can't use the app. And that part of this reaction is what I think is the crummy part and the part that concerns me for any other apps out there that might be made by someone who happens to live in that country. And what is the next country that we're going to suddenly be worried about? And if this app was made in Switzerland, would it be okay?
I'm surprised Senator Schumer didn't mention TikTok, which is an app owned by a Chinese company that every kid in America is uploading images of themselves to every single day, and video too. So sad to say, I mean, these databases are out there. If you go in many airports now, to check into a flight on Delta Airlines, they'll wave you through a kiosk where they take a picture of you and they say, well, you don't need to give us your ID. We know who you are. And that is a data. We know who you are. That is a database that comes from the Customs and Border Patrol folks. It includes DMV images as well as images that the government has for other reasons. And in, I would say, the great majority of cases, it identifies you. So they already have that information. This is a very widespread technology, but we know that face recognition is potentially dangerous. At least 2 cities in the United States, San Francisco and Somerville, Mass, have banned government use of face recognition in those cities. This is going to be a battle that's going to go on and on. For a while, I don't know if you remember, if you go to Disneyland and you had one of those Disneyland passes, they'd use your fingerprint. And we even talked about this on Security Now some years ago. Some guy said, well, I don't want to give you my fingerprint because you can't change your fingerprint easily. I mean, this is kind of a permanent thing you're giving to a private company. So he used his elbow.
But can you change your elbow?
No, you can't, but at least it's your elbow. It's not your finger. So This has been going on for a while. I'm really glad people are aware. So what we're going to show you is some tools, some ways you can look. The cat is out of the bag in many cases, but there's some things you can do to make yourself more private. I think already by using Apple devices, you're more private. But remember, at the minute you put any third-party app on your Apple device, you are giving information up. That app is following you around. That app may have your image. That app may have your fingerprint if you gave it to it. It's not going to get it from Apple, but there's all sorts of problems. These apps are not prevented by Apple from gathering information about you. In fact, we know they do. So let's start with the settings in iOS that we can do to kind of help ourselves be more private. You walk me through, because I want to make myself more private on here.
Yeah, so the settings app is a great place to start because that's going to work for apps that you already have on your phone. If you go to settings and you scroll down, there's a little icon that has a hand, and it's called privacy. And within the privacy settings, you have all these different categories of ways that apps so far have asked you for different types of data. So from the top, we've got location services, which is one that I think a lot of people are most aware of.
Right.
They don't necessarily think about their behavioral tracking that happens online and things like that, but it's very easy to get someone to be paying attention to an app tracking their location.
It makes sense that when I use Google Maps, it should know where I am. Now, there are 3 settings in all of these for all apps. Never, which would make a Maps app pretty useless. Ask next time. I kind of like that one. Or allow location access while using the app. And I kind of like that because, of course, when I open Maps, it needs to know where I am. But it doesn't need to follow me around. And you'll see if you go through here, there are a lot of apps that want to know. For instance, EDX, I'm taking classes at the University of British Columbia. Why does it need to know where I am? Well, it does. It asks for location. It has to ask for it, remember, and you have to give it. But weather and mapping, I can understand. But why would that need to know?
Yeah, what did it give as its explanation? So one of the things that's, because I've built tiny little and played with tiny little apps before. And when you are in Xcode and you are adding the permissions that allow you to ask for a location, iOS says, or Xcode says, okay, you need to tell the person what's the reason for it. What does EDX say?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe to determine if you're in the U.S. or Canada, maybe it's free. In fact, I think this is the case that their degree programs are available in some countries, but not all countries. So perhaps it has to do with that. But it's...
And I don't know if you probably can't see that. Well, yeah, you can. So it'll actually show you in that privacy setting underneath what the explanation is for why it's trying to use
So
data.
let me look. That's good. So I can find that out after the fact. App explanation. So app can use user location. Well, now I feel
not
better.
So helpful. Oh, dear. So they just typed one in really quick and moved on.
This is really important because you can't assume that Apple is looking closely at this and saying, I need a better explanation. They may in some cases, but obviously not in every case. So app can know my location. Okay, thank you very much.
Some apps will have that fourth category, which is always. An example of that was the Shortcuts app, where I can give it access to always use my location. So my basic recommendation here is to go through kind of what Leo's doing and say, do I really need this to know? I don't need this one to know my location at all times. And then Leo, we've talked a few times, this new feature that's coming in iOS 13, where occasionally it'll pop up and it'll show you, hey, here are the 15 times that this app has grabbed your location. Do you want it to keep using your data or using your location? I think that's fantastic. And I think that's going to make people a lot more aware and realize how these apps are tracking data.
Knowledge is power. You're going to want location information to be handed to some, maybe not all. I think it's really important to understand what's going on and what they're doing with it. So I couldn't agree more. There's not just location services. One of the things that I really want to underscore this, people are always asking, oh, let me have your contact list. That way I can see if your friends are joining our service. But you can see I've given my contact list to a lot of people. Important to understand, when you say yes to that, you are basically giving up your friends, their email address, maybe their home address, their phone number. These services have access not just to your information, but your friends' information.
God, there needs to be a solution for this. And I don't know what it is, but I like the idea sort of with Apple when we sign up for new accounts in iOS 13 using sign in with Apple, they're doing these sort of pseudo email addresses where it's kind of a randomized email address. It'll get forwarded to your actual account. I would love it if there was some way to sort of, when I give my contact information to someone, then there's sort of a back and forth process to understand that they are contacting me and I've given them permission to, but the actual phone number or the actual email address is not saved in their phone, and instead they're just reaching out to contact me. I wish there was some way to figure this out to where, because I don't know all of the people who have my contact information right now that have said, oh yeah, I want to use this Amazon service, or I want to use this, so go ahead and upload all of my data. And I think people don't necessarily understand that. So that's another category, the contacts one, to pay close attention to, I think.
The big ones that are snooping on you, of course, are location, services, microphone, and camera. Don't forget.
I would even say photos too is kind of a big one.
So
to be
we were all
of
worried about Russia getting my picture with FaceApp. Look at all the applications that I've given access to my photos with. Now, many of them are photo editing programs. They need access. Some of them are like Harry Potter Wizards Unite, a game that does, as it happens in the game, allow you to take a selfie. But I wonder why they put that in there, because you know what? Maybe that's because they want to collect that information. So you're really giving that information up. Microphone, same thing. If it's Skype, okay, that makes sense. If it's a recording app, okay, that makes sense. But you really want to look at who you're giving microphone access to and make sure you trust those people not to turn on that microphone. Here's the camera. Look at all the programs that have access to my camera. Remember, we were talking about Yumly.
One off.
I did. We were talking about Yumly the other day, and that was one of the camera apps. You were saying, oh, it's cool. You could take pictures of your food, and Yumly will give you a grocery list. In order to do that, you have to give it access to your camera, and you're kind of trusting that Apple has vetted all this. The problem is there's too many apps coming through the App Store. Exactly. They don't have time to see every possible place in the app where they might be looking at your image. So I think it's still on us a little bit to be careful about who you give those privileges to.
I 100% agree. And I think that everybody should take a moment every couple of months or so to basically go in and do a quick rundown to see what's available. I want to touch on two small things left in the privacy tab. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see an option for analytics and advertising. If you tap into analytics, that's going to show where you've said, yes, I'd like to share analytics with different folks. So for example, you can send your usage stuff to Apple. It's anonymized. It's this, it's that, it's the other. You can share iCloud analytics and use, improve health and activity, health records. These are different things to just be aware of.
Whoa.
They're like, Leo,
look at all this crap I'm sending out.
Wow.
Jeez,
Apple
Louise.
has all of those logs. I do not choose to share with app developers via the analytics tab. And the reason why is because I was told that the app developer analytics somehow involve Adobe products and their sort of analytics and marketing stuff. And that's not a place that I want to put all of my data. So while I'm happy to give Apple analytics usage so that they can improve their products, not so on board with the packaging of my data to be shipped to app developers. I'm sorry, developers, but I will, of course, send you feedback if there's a bug. But as far as just wholesale giving up the data, I personally choose to turn that off across the board on macOS, iOS, etc.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do share it because I want to help app developers get better. And it says right here, help app developers improve their apps by allowing Apple to share crash data as well as statistics about how you use their apps. So that seems benign, but you make a good point. That could be all sorts of information. Mine's turned on. It's
totally up to you. Like everybody, think about it for sure. This was just that was the one place in analytics where I said, no, I'm not going to do this one.
I have to say, you have a greater trust of Apple than perhaps I do. I consider Apple no different than any other big corporation. They're not my buddy.
Right.
They're a business. And
Yes.
while they say a lot about privacy, I think that their privacy record is imperfect. It's better than most, but it's not perfect. And I think it's important to also consider whether you want to share stuff with Apple. If you're using
Absolutely.
Apple products, you're kind of by default sharing it with Apple. You're kind of trusting them. That's the other point I would make, is that civilized life is a matter of trust. You can't go down the highway without trusting that the guy coming in the other direction isn't going to steer into your lane. There's just a good deal of trust just living. And there's even more trust involved with computing, because anytime you have a computing device and you put on it binary blobs of applications, you trust that those applications are benign. And as we now know, many times they're not. So there's a certain amount of trust that goes into computing. It requires that. I guess the old Ronald Reagan line, trust but verify, applies here as much as possible. And I'm relying somewhat on security researchers who spend a lot of time looking at the traffic coming and going out of your devices to see if there's additional stuff being sent, not just from your iPad and iPhone, but for your Amazon Echo or your Google Home. And whenever possible, I think they will let people know, hey, there's more going on here than you realize. We've got to be alert, but just the nature of using technology requires that a certain amount of trust is involved, and perhaps that trust is being breached. I would guess it is
regularly,
often.
And here's the last one, really quick: advertising. If you tap into that advertising tab, I have this turned on. I'm curious, Leah, do you have limit ad? No, you do not. So limit ad tracking is a way to opt out of receiving ads targeted to your interests. You're still going to get ads, but they're going to be less relevant to you. Some people like to have ads that are more relevant. It makes sense. But
it's off by default, but you're right. I'm going to turn that on. The other thing, if you turn it on, reset the advertising identifier.
Love that.
Because that's the unique identifier that says you are you. That information's very valuable because, of course, no one advertiser is getting more than a piece of the information about you. But if those databases are combined using your unique identifier, they can build a very good profile of you. So reset that advertising identifier frequently.
Yes, that's the last thing that's my last tip is when you go and you do, what is that called? When you go and look at some information again, it's oh golly, I can't think of it. There's a noun for it. But anyway, when you are audit, that's the word I was looking for.
Audit's
when
good.
you do your audit, make sure of all of your privacy settings, make sure you tap into advertising and choose reset advertising identifier.
Yeah.
That pretty much wraps up there, other than to say it's so fun when we get a new app. We want to use it out as quickly as possible. We want to get signed in, et cetera, et cetera. But take half a second to think about those prompts that pop up to see, yes, I want this. No, I don't want this. I don't know, Leo, if you've been getting a lot of pop-ups with iOS 13, but every app seems to want to use Bluetooth. And so I go, does X need to use my Bluetooth? I don't think it does. So I can say don't allow to several of them. But yeah, just don't automatically okay all these prompts. Make sure you do pay attention to see what each of them is asking you. And then you get to use your app and you get to know a little bit more that your data is at least a little bit more secure and private.
There's another area that we send out a lot of information about ourselves, and that's in our communications, whether it's email or messaging. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation has a very good page, easy to remember, ssd.eff.org, surveillance self-defense.eff.org. This is primarily intended for journalists and dissidents in countries where it's not safe to speak your mind, but it's useful for all of us in thinking about how we can keep our communications private and safe. And there's a lot of information in here, including information about security, things like creating strong passwords, creating a security plan, protecting yourself on social networks, tool guides as well, how to avoid phishing attacks, how to circumvent censorship, how to delete data securely on Mac OS and Windows, enable two-factor, and so forth. So this is a really great resource I highly recommend for everybody. And if you're going to do messaging, these tool guides are great. They have a lot of information about messaging. And I'm going to mention one particular program here called Signal. I think people say, oh, what do I need a special messaging program? I've got Apple's Messages. Isn't that encrypted and secure? Yes and no. It's encrypted, but it's not encrypted from the point of view of Apple. And in fact, Apple can and has in the past see your messages and give them to law enforcement or any official body asking for that information. So if you trust the law enforcement in your country and you trust Apple, then Messages is good enough. But if you want something that's even more secure, I recommend Signal. It's a free app. You can download it easily. It is strong, secure encryption done right. In fact, better than PGP. We often hear about PGP being used in email, but PGP is a 20-year-old technology for encrypting emails that has some significant potential flaws. Signal lacks those flaws. So email, I think you should never consider email a secure channel for communicating with people. One of the problems, for instance, with PGP is it doesn't support something called forward secrecy. You can assume an adversary, whether it's the NSA or your government, is recording all conversations. Now, maybe those conversations are encrypted. Maybe they've been saving all your emails for years, but it's encrypted. If at any point it's possible for them to break your PGP encryption, all the messages you sent using that key will then be available to them. They can go back in time and read everything. Forward secrecy is great. It rotates the keys on a regular basis so that even if one key is compromised somehow, they can't read previous messages and they won't be able to read future messages. It limits the damage. So perfect forward secrecy is very important, and that's one of the things Signal does really well. There's one negative about Signal. They do a lot of encryption. They protect you. They protect metadata. People can't see who you're talking to. The only drawback to Signal is that you have to use your phone number. So it is tied to your phone number, and that's kind of a drawback if you ask me. And if you have a burner phone or a phone number that's not directly tied to you, then it is completely anonymous. Signal does everything right. It offers a variety of communications, including voice. And so you can have secure phone calls as well as messages. You can send images.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really good solution. If you really want to communicate with somebody privately, I would recommend setting up Signal. They have to set up Signal too, and not using email or PGP, because Signal does it all right with modern crypto technologies. PGP, which has been around for years, was great in its day, but is not completely reliable going forward. It's just not up to date. Signal is easy to install. It's very straightforward. In fact, in some cases, you can use Signal just as you would text messaging. It's not quite Apple Messages, but it has that advantage that nobody, not even Signal, can see what your message is. So if it's important to be private, a lot of journalists will use Signal and, like me, publish their Signal phone number so that you can, if you want to be a whistleblower or you want to, tell them something that it's dangerous for you to tell them, you can. That's one of the reasons so many journalists use Signal. It's a really great solution.
It's the only way that Leo and I communicate with one another. I say,
don't even know
is
who
the
you
line
are.
secure?
I've never even. There's another program that
David,
uses
Don, Jack. I can't remember what your names
There's
were.
another program I should mention that uses a similar technology that's also good. It's not free. It's called Wire. It's also very good. I would suggest that it's really important, if you're going to use a program like Signal or Wire, that it be open source. Apple's Messages is not open source. If something's open source, it means it can be audited by security experts to make sure there are no backdoors, that there's no secret key that's being passed around to government agencies, that the technique that some government agencies do use of creating a hidden third party in your conversation, that doesn't work. All of those things need to be audited. Signal and Wire have been recently audited. They're open source. There are other solutions that are not open source. You can't trust them. And I include Apple's Messages in that because it's not open source. So it's very important to use, if you want security, if you want true privacy, to use an open source solution. I have some other things. Would you like to see some other things? I don't know. For instance, some people are worried about using Google. The default search engine on Safari is Google. But the problem is every search you do on Google is handed to Google. And Google is an advertising company. They collect all your searches. And it turns out, if I know about every search you do, I pretty much know everything there is to know about you. So if you sometimes want to search privately, people talk a lot about DuckDuckGo, which isn't Google, uses its own search engine. But my problem with these third-party search tools like DuckDuckGo or Bing is they're not as good as Google, right?
Right.
Turns out there's one company that uses Google's search index privately. And I don't know how long this is going to last, but Google gives its API to a Swiss company called startpage.com. What happens when you do a Google search? I'll do one on some guy I've heard of named Mikah. Oh, look, it changed it to a C. M-A. It's K, right?
There you go. Yep.
S-A-R-G-E-N-T. Now, reason I use your name is because you know what a search result for Mikah Sargent should look like. There's your Twitter. There's Mikah.co. There's Chihuahua Coffee. Here's a story about you joining Twit. These are good search results. Your Instagram, your podcast, Clockwise on Relay FM. You know, your page on our Twit site. Here you are on The Incomparable. All the articles on iMore that you wrote. This is a good search result. It's complete because it's Google's search result. Here's the difference. It's Google's search result as if you were incognito. So one of the things Google does is it cultivates your search results based on what it knows about you. Some people say that creates a filter bubble. It gives you results you are looking for. And maybe that isn't the perfect result. It also, and this is a thing I hate about Google, it'll put YouTube up at front. It'll put AMP pages up top.
Yes, all in the way.
It prioritizes Google searches, Google properties. Does the knowledge graph over here. This is the pure Google results from the Google API. Notice it doesn't have a news tab, but it does have the Google tools. You can choose, you know, when the search was. It has a full image search. Is it safe to search for Mikah Sargent images? Yes, it is.
Well, there's that risque one of me in a robe, but other than that,
this is a little. This is cute. You and the Chihuahuas on the couch. So this is great. This is if you're and it does have video searches, which will include YouTube, of course, but it doesn't prioritize YouTube. And I have to say, you did the Ice Bucket Challenge.
That first one? Yes, I did.
Well-Tory Review on Podcast from April 2018. This was me interviewing you 2.5 years ago. How about that?
Wow.
How about that? I got to see you do the Ice Bucket Challenge.
It's so cold.
It looks cold. I hope it's as warm where you're doing it then as it is today.
Yeah. It was, yes.
This is painful. I can't. I
love that you're like, I can't do it. Here we go.
Here we go.
Oh man, now my heart rate's up.
You really don't look happy. Oh. So don't think that because we're using Start Page we can't find compromising videos of everybody. This is also, notice it says anonymous view. So this is not sending any information back to the Goog. It is completely anonymous, completely private. I think this is really great. And if
I'm changing my homepage right now.
Now most browsers will allow you to modify it. In fact, if you go to startpage.com, at the very top of Start Page, at the very bottom as you scroll down, it will help you make Start Page your default search engine. And in Firefox you can. I don't know if you can in Chrome, but it's worth at least checking it out. Safari you cannot, but you can always make Start Page be your home page or even make a desktop icon so that you can use Start Page. It's an anonymous way to search that is as good as Google, and I think that makes it pretty special.
I agree. This is wonderful. I am adding it
well known.
To all my
I far prefer it to DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, I've never heard about it.
Yeah,
before.
I think it should be better known. Let's see. Oh, one other thing. I'll just show one other thing, and then we can you
actually? I don't know if this is the other thing, but I hope you're going to talk about your little router deal that I know you talked a little bit about it on travel, but we got to at least mention it. Your little mini router.
My little mini router. I wasn't, but I didn't put it in the show notes, but I will absolutely talk about it. So if you are at an open Wi-Fi access point, we've always talked about using VPNs and so forth, how dangerous it is to be at an open Wi-Fi access point. And part of that is that you're on the internet bare naked. When you're at home, there's a router between you and the outside world. When you're at an open Wi-Fi access point, you're in a network with a bunch of strangers, and we don't know how much security there is on the Wi-Fi router you're attached to. It may not be very safe. So I've often recommended, if you're traveling, using a travel router, a small router you pack in your bag that acts as a barrier, just as your router at home does, between you and the outside world. And the travel, Netgear sells them, D-Link sells them. A lot of companies sell little portable travel routers. The ones I use, though, come from a company in Washington, D.C., right down the road from the CIA. It's called the Tiny Hardware Firewall. Actually, the company's called Wi-Fi Consulting, and I like them. I've trusted them for a long time. The Tiny Hardware Firewalls are inexpensive, small devices that you can connect to the Ethernet at your hotel. This is the one I use, the micro router. You see, it's just a USB. It looks like a USB stick. It's got a USB on one side. You could plug it into your computer, or you could plug it into a battery and power it up. It boots up. It connects to the Wi-Fi, the external Wi-Fi, and then gives you access through your. It has two Wi-Fi connections. There's a Wi-Fi router built in, so it's in effect in between you and the outside world. That will keep a lot of attacks out, but it also has a VPN built in. It's part of the price of the Tiny Hardware Firewall, and even has the Tor browser built in. So if you want to, you could turn on even better protection. But just using a Linux firewall between you and the outside world gives you a lot of protection. And these aren't too expensive. There are a variety of different ones, most of them under $100. And then you can also use their VPN with it, blackholecloud.com. It's an interesting VPN server that has a dedicated server for each tiny hardware firewall. So
nice.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It has some disadvantages for some of the things some people want to do with VPN, but when it comes to security, this is absolutely the best way to protect your privacy. So that's tinyhardwarefirewall.com, and that will work just fine on an iPad or iPhone or your desktop computer. In fact,
for the whole family.
The whole family, because when I set mine up, I tell everybody, don't connect. We're going to do that this week. Next week, we're doing this early, I should mention. Normally, we do the show on Tuesdays. We're doing it Saturday because next week I'm going to be taking the 16-year-old and his 3 buddies with Lisa down to Los Angeles. We'll have Wi-Fi in the house, but I'm going to set it up and say, here's the Wi-Fi access point and password, and it won't be the Airbnb Wi-Fi that we're joining. Who knows what that's doing? It'll be the Tiny Hardware Firewall that they'll be connecting to that's protecting them from the rest of the house. And you can turn on things like ad blocking, security filtering, things like that, so that it protects you from malware as well. I think it's a great solution for traveling. Yeah, and it's around $100, and that includes a year of firewalling. I also, a couple of other things. I have a lot of stuff that I put in here. We probably don't have time for all of it, but I did want to show you something that is for the more advanced user. It's called Keybase. It's a free service at keybase.io, and I don't know if I should go too far into detail about it because
it is a little complicated.
It's complicated. If you want to use it, I would recommend going there and reading about it. What Keybase gives me is a place that I can share my PGP code with people so that they can send me encrypted data and I can receive it. But they offer more than that. They offer secure file storage that no one can get into or that the public can get into, but only you can change. They have chat and secure group chat that is absolutely secure as Signal, open source, and very good. They have, I use it to verify that I am who I say I am.
Across different platforms.
Across different platforms. And it also has its own, and this is a little bit more advanced, but for people who want to share files between computers securely, it has its own Git instance. So I use Git, which is a software repository solution that it was originally used for developing Linux. It's now used in a lot of places. You probably heard of GitHub. But this is their own Git that is completely encrypted and secure. They don't have access to your data. Only you do. That's where I keep things like my tax information so that I can have it on multiple computers safely and securely. Keybase is an amazing free resource that I think more people should know about. That's keybase.io. But that's your black diamond tip. That's for people who are a little bit more sophisticated and want to know more about what they can do to protect their privacy online. I'm a real fan of Keybase, and I always use this chance to plug them. Keybase.io. Let's take a little break, shall we? And then we've got news, we've got questions, we've got a lot more to do, but I have to I have to do an early app cap. Are you ready for an early app cap?
Whoa, early app cap.
I'm going to do my Fox cap because it's time to talk.
Oh, mine's around here somewhere.
About Mint Mobile. Did they give you a Mint Mobile account?
Yeah,
Yay.
they did. And I wish my hat, I don't know where it is right now.
It
but
works on your iPhone, by the way. It works great on your iPhone. Mint Mobile is a new service for people who want to spend less and get more with their smartphone. Mint Mobile is amazing. Premium wireless, unlimited text, talk, and very affordable data for as little as $15 a month. I bought the Mint Mobile $25 a month plan. That gives me 12 gigabytes of data every month. That's more than enough for anything I'd want to do. I put the Mint Mobile SIM, they send you the SIM, into my phone. And now this is the least expensive cell phone service I have ever had. It is incredible. I just love Mint Mobile. And it's great service everywhere I go. I'm online, high speed. I want you to try Mint Mobile. If you're still using the big four wireless providers, you really got to wonder when you get that bill. And I see like my Verizon bill is $90 a month. Why I'm paying almost four times the price for service that's no better than my Mint Mobile. The same premium network coverage you're used to. It's running on T-Mobile, so if T-Mobile works where you are, and it does in most areas, you'll get the great service, but at a fraction of the cost. Because they don't have stores. They save a lot of money. They do everything online. They save on retail locations. They save on that overhead, and they pass the savings on to you. Imagine not spending $80, $90, $100 a month for your mobile service, paying just $15 a month. Every plan comes with unlimited nationwide talk and text. You'll stop paying for the unlimited data you'll never use. Go look at your phone bill. See how much data you use every month. Choose between 3, 8, or 12 gigabytes of, yes, high-speed 4G LTE data. You can bring your own phone. You can even keep your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Just pop in the Mint Mobile SIM, and you'll be saving. Ditch your old wireless bill. Are you on?
I slapped. I was going to say my new iPad Pro. I slapped that Mint SIM into my iPad Pro. Put it right in there. Pro.
You bet.
Bada bing, bada boom. I've got data access everywhere.
Isn't that awesome?
I don't have to add another line to my my phone plan that I already have.
I'm putting it in my car.
Yes, cars have SIM cards now. Yes.
And I was paying so much money for data access in my car. I'm just going to put the SIM in there. Mintmobile.com/iOS. Start saving with a Fox. These guys are foxy. Mintmobile.
I love that hat.
I know. I have socks too. I have the T-shirt too. Look at this. It's called "Chill the Fox Out." This is my favorite. I love this mug. It's one of those nice tin camping mugs. My Mint Mobile mug.
Oh, yeah. You could make a Moscow Mule in there.
Yeah. My Mint Mobile socks. I got it all. I'm all Mint Mobile, man. Mintmobile.com/iOS. I'm really excited about Mint Mobile because, frankly, as soon as my contract runs out with the other guys, the big guys, and I have service from all the guys, I'm canceling it all and just getting Mint Mobile SIMs for all my phones. It's so much cheaper. I pay $25 a month. And let me tell you, I play Harry Potter hours a day. Hours a day. And I'm never going to come close to using 12 gigabytes in a month. That's amazing. I might even look at lowering my cost by going down to the 3 gigabyte plan. Mintmobile.com/iOS. Cut your wireless bill to as little as $15 a month. Complete. All in. What? Mint Mobile.
Wild.
Yep. Love them. Got to love the Mint. All right. It's time to take off the Mint hat because I got to make room for my app cap in a little bit. But let's talk about security news. Here's one from an Israeli security firm, the same one that was responsible for the WhatsApp hack. Remember that hack that allowed, I can't remember which nation state, but a nation state to get into a dissident's iPhone, crack the iPhone wide open by making a phone call to WhatsApp. This security firm says, well, don't worry about us because we only sell to nation states, to responsible nation states. But it's not clear that they're selling just to, the good guys. It seems like
what counts is what counts.
It seems like others. do. It's called the NSO Group, and their spyware, this is the thing I wanted to tell you about. Their new spyware called Pegasus is being marketed as a way to target data uploaded to the cloud. The tool is said, this is from Mac Rumors, the tool is said to work on many of the latest iPhones as well as Android phones. I think a lot of us feel like we're on an iPhone and don't have to worry about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And even after the tool is removed from the original device, it will continue to harvest data. Because here's how it works. It gets on your phone, copies the authentication keys that Google Drive, Facebook Messenger, Apple's iCloud, among others, put on the phone so that you don't have to log in every time, and then exfiltrate those keys so that a third-party server can impersonate your phone, including its location. They're smart enough to do that and get all your iCloud information or your Google Drive information. And basically, they get open-ended access to the cloud data without prompting two-step authentication, without warning emails on the target device. As far as Google Drive and iCloud are concerned, it's you. It's you just accessing your stuff normally. NSO says, we don't promote hacking. We don't promote mass surveillance tools. But we do make this program available. Apple told the Financial Times its operating system was the safest and most secure computing platform in the world. While some expensive tools may exist to perform targeted attacks on a very small number of devices, we do not believe these are useful for widespread attack against consumers. So let me read between the lines. Let me tell you what Apple's saying here. Yes, it works. Yes, it can do what it says it does, but you have to be the target of somebody who has these tools. It just can't be spread widely through the App Store or somewhere to everybody. That's not what it's used for. And that's true a lot of these tools, is they're used by nation states to attack particular people, spies, dissidents, that kind of thing. So I think the key is that this exists, and Apple doesn't deny that it works. It's
my shoe phone. My shoe phone's going to get hacked thanks to this.
There's a Bluetooth exploit that can track and identify iOS and Microsoft mobile device users.
So not just phone. I was like, what Microsoft mobile device? Well, are they talking like Surface tablets?
I don't know what they're talking about. But I guess the point is it doesn't work on Android because of the way Android implements Bluetooth. But the way Apple implements Bluetooth, as well as Windows 10 and Mac OS, it makes it theoretically possible for an attacker to get in. This comes from security researchers at Boston University. They presented the results at the 19th Privacy Enhancing Technologies Symposium going on in Sweden. The paper was Tracking Anonymized Bluetooth Devices. I'm sure Steve Gibson will be talking about this at some point on Security Now. They found it's possible to it turns out that Apple devices in Windows 10 broadcast identifiers as you travel around in the world. Now, they randomize them so that, in theory, it's not the same identifier each time. This team was able to figure out how to de-randomize them and say, oh, yeah, that's Leo. Oh, yeah, I see him again. Oh, yeah, I see him again. And that is really a problem. Android does not do this broadcast thing. So it is not vulnerable. That's
curious to me, the difference between them, because is this the Bluetooth spec specifically, and Google has just altered the Bluetooth spec for their own, devices, so to speak, or is this is it companies using the standard sort of Bluetooth spec, and that's the problem, while Google is using sort of an altered version, and so it's okay? Or is it that Apple and Microsoft have taken the standard Bluetooth spec and added things to it, and that's what's causing the issue? That's the interesting thing to me, because then we're not just talking about Microsoft and iOS. We're talking about anything that uses the Bluetooth LE spec so that could be your smart devices. I think of like those little tags that people carry with them in their wallet, and I can't think of what there are a few companies. Tile. Thank you. Yeah. So my dogs have little trackers that are Bluetooth LE. I don't know. Are those, I wonder, just as likely to be an issue?
Here's the deal. Bluetooth LE, one of the reasons people use Bluetooth LE, and it's part of Bluetooth 5, is because it makes it very easy to pair. Remember how hard it used to be? You'd have to get the device to scan, the device you're pairing with to scan. They'd have a pairing code. You'd say yes on both devices. They'd pair up. That was more secure, but it was a pain in the butt. Bluetooth LE, you may notice sometimes you just pair kind of automatically. It goes, oh, I see it. That's the one you want, right? That's the problem, okay, is this kind of easy handshake protocol. It turns out, my guess is that the Bluetooth spec is kind of ambiguous on this. It's effectively the difference between pushing and polling. So iOS and Windows they advertise their location continuously with a token that they're sending out. Android devices pull. They look for other devices saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, and then pair. My guess, and I don't know if this is the case, but my guess is this might have something to do with a technology Apple was all over, you may remember a few years ago, called beaconing.
Beacons, yeah.
The idea of beacons was that you would be walking through a store and your phone would say, oh, I got a deal on pants over here. Or in a museum, oh, you want to know more about that painting? I'll tell you. That's because these beacons were sent out. They were sent out advertising that they existed, and your phone would recognize them and join it. We learned not so long ago that Mac OS devices and iOS devices can be beacons. So in the past, you would buy a beacon, you'd put it on a painting or a pair of pants, and it would send out a message which your phone would then recognize. We didn't know that iOS and Mac were doing the same thing, that they, in effect, were beacons as well. So Android devices are not beacons. They don't act as beacons. But Apple, I think, trying to create a market or maybe with some ideas about how it might be used, made their devices beacon. Now, they can turn off beaconing, and I suspect after this report, they might want to consider doing that. Because I don't know of anything that uses this. But I do remember reading a story about 6 months ago. We were all kind of surprised. Oh, did you know your Mac laptop is a beacon? Well, I have a feeling that's where this flaw comes from. Any device that regularly advertises, this from the researchers, data will be vulnerable to the algorithm if it does not change all its identifying tokens in sync with the advertising address. So I think that the Bluetooth spec is unclear on this, or is maybe leaves that question open. And Apple and Microsoft have decided to do it in a way that ultimately is proven to be insecure. I would watch for a fix. I can't think of any commercial use at this point. Oh, well, maybe at Apple Home and the HomeKit, there might be something going on there. I don't know. Let's see. Any other news stories we want to talk about here before we move on? Did you see the new emoji? Are you excited?
Yeah, I think it's always a good thing when we get new emoji.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Okay. How often do you use emoji in your communications with others?
Pretty much all the time.
Yeah,
the only time that I don't would be if I was, and it even depends here. Depending on who I'm talking to via email, I may or may not use emojis.
I think you're going to be very happy to have a garlic emoji that you can send. Yeah.
I'm most excited about these new accessibility emojis.
I think that's great. There's people in chairs. There's a woman or a man signaling that they can't hear, that they're deaf. There's a prosthetic arm. I don't know why the skunk dog is in there, but okay. There's a guide dog. There's a banjo. There's waffles and a flamingo. This actually is an Apple doing this, or Google, or anybody. It's the Unicode consortium that determines. Did you know why this happened? So we used to remember ASCII, ASCII, the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. All the characters that you typed on your keyboard used to be in that 256 ASCII code set. That meant all the alphabet, all the numbers, special punctuation, maybe a few extra special characters. The total amount of those was 256. Quickly became apparent that was insufficient, especially because there are non-Roman alphabets. There's Chinese and Japanese and Cyrillic. We need a lot bigger code set. So Unicode replaced ASCII. Unicode has a giant, I don't remember how big Unicode is. Is it 16-bit? Is it 32-bit? Much larger space than the old 8-bit set, which meant now we not only have plenty of space for all the languages of the world, but we have extra unoccupied codes. At first, they were just emojis. But then, as time goes by, things being as they are, people said, well, you've got more space. How about some more emojis? And the emoji specification has expanded. And
137,994 characters that cover 150 modern and historic scripts, as well as multiple symbol sets and emoji.
So you can see we got room for more. And there'll probably be a dozen or so more emoji every year.
Look, I'm happy now, too, that they've got mixed race couple options.
Isn't that nice?
Because I can properly represent my relationship in an emoji, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I think the inclusive, and by the way, I give credit to Google for that. I also give credit to Apple for the disability-themed emoji, because Apple really pressed for that. There is an emoji committee, and individuals can get involved. For instance, the fact that a milkshake exists in the emoji, we can credit to a former employee of ours, Tanya, who made a point.
I have a few in the works,
lobbying.
too. I've got a few requests in the works. Yeah, so one is they've got the cat set of Smile, like a smile cat, a sad cat.
Yeah, and I use the kissy cat a lot.
Yeah, and I talked to Jeremy Burge, and I was like, am I going to have to submit a separate one for the set, or can I just say, hey, let's have a dog version of the cat set? And he said I could submit that as one. So I'm working on that one. I just have never gotten around to finishing that. That I'm hoping to get approved some year. But what's interesting to me, a quick note, the head of the Unicode Consortium and one of the other kind of ruling bodies, there's a person who's from Google and a person who's from Apple there. And so while it is inaccurate to say that, as you said, that Google and Apple are responsible for emoji, it is also not entirely inaccurate to say that, because those people who have vested interests in those companies are part of this Unicode group. So it's fascinating to me, the emoji subcommittee and all of its ins and outs and how that works.
Yeah, it is. And you know Jeremy. Jeremy, of course, is the publisher of Emojipedia, which is the definitive place to find what an emoji means if you're ever confused and you get a message from Mikah and go, what the hell is he trying to say here? And Jeremy's a great guy. We've had him on. You've talked to him as well. And he is part of that committee. So, yeah, I think it's nice because we can all influence emojis, not just the big companies, although maybe the big companies get the final say. Let's take a little break. When we come back, we've got questions. You've got answers. Mikah Sargent, Leo Laporte, iOS Today. Brought to you today by these. I love these. Did we get you some of these yet?
Not yet, but I'm waiting for them. I got to listen to them finally while I was there.
Well, what do you think?
Great.
Yeah.
So here's what I was worried about.
These are the Aftershocks headphones.
Yes, Aftershocks. And what I was worried is that wearing them, someone was going to be able to hear sort of what I was listening to. But I was sitting next to our producer, Anthony, and I asked him, and he said, no, I can't hear it all. And I was like, it sounds so good.
It's hard to believe.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aftershocks are bone-conducting headphones. They don't go in your ear. They go on your cheekbone. They're held in place by this very lightweight, very flexible and comfortable titanium band. These are the most comfortable headphones I've ever worn. But they have another advantage. If you're exercising, if you're running, if you're riding your bike, they don't block your hearing. So you can hear traffic coming up from behind you. You can hear somebody conversing with you. They can't hear your music, but you can hear them. It also has a built-in microphone. These are my defaults for Skype calls, any kind of online calls, because the microphone is so good. And I can still have conversations. I could still walk around, and they're so comfortable, I often forget I'm even wearing them. Aftershocks are amazing. I know you might be skeptical, saying, well, how bone conducted, is that going to sound as good? They actually come with a pair of earplugs you can put in your ears to make sure that no sound's bleeding in through your ear. That actually improves the bass and the sound quality. It sounds that good. Enjoy crystal clear phone calls and music you've never heard before with Aftershocks. And they've got something called Premium Pitch, which guarantees a premium audio experience. Wide dynamic range, really rich bass, wireless Bluetooth 4.1 connectivity, convenient multi-point pairing. I have it paired to everything I own. So when a call comes in on my computer or my iPhone, I can use the AfterShokz to answer it. It's, by the way, IP55 certified. That means it repels sweat, dust, and moisture. So if you're out running and it's raining, you don't have to worry about your AfterShokz. 6 hours of continuous music or calls on a single charge, 10-day standby time, and they charge up fast within an hour and a half. I have my AfterShokz plugged in and ready to use at home on my desk because I know when I get home, I'll put them on. If I've got calls to make or I want to listen to music as I wander around the house, there's nothing better. AfterShokz, they're safer for driving. They're safer for any outdoor activity because you can hear what's going on around you, including sirens.
And Beyonce sounds
voices.
great on them.
And Beyonce sounds great. They're the best headphones for listening to Queen Bee. Order an AfterShokz Tech Bundle. We've got a great deal for you right now. That includes, of course, the AfterShokz, the Trex Air, which are the ones I'm wearing right now, very lightweight, a pop socket for your phone, a large portable storage case, portable power bank, and the travel tumbler and insulator with the AfterShokz logo on it. And you're going to save $50 on the deal if you go to iostoday.aftershokz.com. You got to use the offer code iOS today as well. The offer is valid in the U.S. only, sorry. But it's a great way of letting them know you heard it on iOS Today. That helps support us. iostoday.aftershokz.com. Use the code iOS Today to get that $50 off the tech bundle. I'm a big fan of these. I love these. I use them all the time. You will too. AfterShokz is spelled with a KZ at the end. So it's iostoday.aftershokz.com, and the offer code again is iOS Today. Thank you, AfterShokz. You ready to answer some questions?
Let's do the questions.
This is one I get all the time. Derek, I bought an iPad, but it's iCloud locked. Is there any way around this? I don't have access to the person who had the account. This is Apple's so-called kill switch or activation lock, and they did this because iPhones were the #1 product for being stolen. In fact, I heard at one point in New York City it was so bad that cabbies, if they found an iPhone in the car, would know there was a corner they could drive by where they would just give the guy an iPhone and he would take the cash. There was such a brisk market in stolen or lost iPhones. So Apple fixed this a few years ago, saying, you know, once you get an iPhone, you can't just wipe it and reuse it. You have to get the person who used to own it to log out of their iCloud account and remove it from Find My iPhone, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's, Find My iPhone activation lock is the most recent version of the name for this. And it'll be interesting if it's going to just be called Find My activation lock when iOS 13 ships. But essentially, if you've ever sold one of your products to one of the services like Gazelle or a different one, that's why they have these very clear, and I think they tell you like 6 times in the process, the very clear process for how to erase properly the phone while removing activation lock. And that's because, as far as we know, unless you've got some special government entity that can do it, activation lock is activation lock is activation lock, and you have to, one way or another, get them to log out of that device completely in order to remove activation lock. Otherwise, it's going to be there, and the best you've got is a device you can sell for parts. Really, right?
Apple says if the previous owner isn't with you, sign into iCloud with their Apple ID and password. No, I don't have that information. So if you search online, you will see a lot of sites, sketchy sites that say, give us a little money, we can unlock it for you. And in some cases, it may be true, but here's the problem. Once you've done that, it involves basically breaking the connection with the Apple servers. You can never again update that phone. You can never join iCloud. That phone is severely crippled. There is one other thing you could do, and that's go to the Apple Store or contact Apple directly. If you can show that you bought that device legitimately. Remember, this is just to prevent theft. So if you have a receipt, if you have an email chain, maybe you bought it on eBay, you have the email chain and the eBay receipt, you can throw yourself on the mercy of Apple because they do have the ability to unlock it. but you've got to get them to do it. And in almost every case, they're going to really need some serious proof that this is yours, not a stolen iPad. And not that you fell off a truck and you happened to acquire it, or you bought it on eBay from a sketchy seller. They really want to know that this was a legitimate transaction and the previous seller just forgot to deactivate. That's also another tip. If you're going to get rid of your iPhone or iPad, don't forget to deactivate it, or it will be completely useless to whoever gets it. So that's a good question. We get it a lot. I don't mind answering it again because, frankly, it could be frustrating. I have an iPad John gave me, I think, that we'd used in the studio. I still haven't unlocked that iPad. I can't figure out whose it was, what the password is.
Oh, wow.
It's, you know, by now it's such an old, it's like an iPad Air 2 or 3. It's probably a lost cause. From Mark in Racine, Wisconsin comes this query. My wife and I had been using the Walkie Talkie app on our Apple Series 4 watches. Worked well, but then it just stopped working. It keeps saying it can't connect. And when we try to add to each other again, it says we have to use Walkie Talkie with someone that has an Apple Watch. Like us? We tried many times over the weeks. We've invited each other. We don't get the other's invite. I've even restored my watch from backup. It still doesn't work. What's the problem? What should we try to do to fix it?
I thought this was going to be the fact that Apple had temporarily disabled the Walkie Talkie app because of a vulnerability that allowed people to listen in via iPhone using Walkie Talkie.
You got a microphone on your Apple Watch. And this was like the FaceTime bug. Remember where they could create a third invisible party to your conversation and then just leave it open and listen as you're going about your business with your Apple Watch. So Apple has deactivated Walkie Talkie because of that, and presumably they'll reactivate it when they have a fix. But you think this isn't that?
I think this isn't that because Mark says over weeks.
Yeah, that was a fairly recent fix.
Yeah, when we got this feedback, if it was over weeks at that point that we got this feedback, then that precludes the time when Apple was
it's only been 2 weeks
issue.
since they deactivated it. They deactivated it on July 10th. So
now,
if it was before July 10th, Mark,
I have had this issue in the past with my mom, actually, where she wanted to check out the Walkie Talkie app, and she had an older device that was, relied more heavily on the iPhone. And so it required for her an update to iOS. But you said that you have 2 Apple Series 4 watches. I would still double check to make sure that you do indeed have the latest version of iOS for both of your apps. And then one thing that I recommend everybody does if they're having issues with their Apple Watch at all is to open up the Apple Watch app, and there is a setting where you can look at your Apple ID. And when you tap on that, what it essentially does is you'll see like a little spinning thing, and it's trying to make a connection with the watch to figure out what Apple ID is logged in on that Apple Watch. And in doing that, it can kind of sort of force a reconnect. And so my thought here is that there could be some verification issues that are taking place somewhere between not the watches directly, but something to do with the pairing between Apple Watch, aka watchOS, and iOS on your iPhone. So give that a try, give that a shot to see that basically if it is working properly, then you'll see after a little bit of spinning, your Apple ID will show up, and that way you know that it's logged in properly on your watch. So you want to make sure that your Apple ID is logged in and properly authorized on your watches, and that it's paired properly with iOS. So good luck.
Remember, you also need a good data connection. So the weird thing about Walkie Talkie is it will use Wi-Fi if it's available. It will use LTE. Remember, some Apple Watches have LTE if it's available. It will connect through your phone if neither of those 2 methods exist. Make sure that your phone can see the watch, that your phone is online, either through Wi-Fi or LTE. Maybe you had an LTE subscription on your Apple Watch that you let lapse. I would check with your carrier to make sure that your LTE subscription is still good. Remember, you pay an extra $10 a month for that. Maybe, like me, you decided to save some money by canceling old subscriptions. So all of that has to work, and it may well be that the method that you were using to make that work, Wi-Fi, LTE, or a direct phone connection, no longer is working. And if that's the case, that may also cause those connection errors. All right, I think you alluded to this last week, but we didn't give him his full shrift. We gave him short shrift. I want to give him long shrift. Tim, Leah, and Mikah. I've enjoyed your show for many years. I've learned so much, and now I'm an Apple fanboy with a myriad of Apple products for me, my family, and 3M. 3M, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, whom I've worked for the last 20 years. As an account executive and sales manager for 3M, the iPad became the best sales tool I ever had in my 31 years in industrial sales. But the reason for this email, hook and loop, trademark 3M, is not Velcro. Many people describe it as Velcro, just like Kleenex, but there are strong differences. The hook and loop, trademark, product is an industrial fastening type of product with many types of hooks and loops available to create various strengths of hold and greater durability. During your recent podcast about travel products, Mikah was showing you a black wrap that was holding his cables using hook and loop. You guys talked about it being Velcro for a few minutes, and I felt compelled to add a different side to your story. Thanks for what you do, et cetera, et cetera. And it's very kind.
Yes.
It would be like calling sticky notes Post-it notes.
Those are
Trademark
called
3M.
proprietary eponyms. Proprietary eponyms are where we use a brand name in place of a word for just it's the example would be like calling any MP3 player an iPod.
Right.
It's a proprietary eponym, and unfortunately there's Velcro and there's hook and loop, and we've talked about how that gets confusing between those different ones. But I love this kind of thing. This was what I call enjoyable pedantry. There's pedantry that is annoying, and it's a well actually type of statement, and then there's someone explaining something they're passionate about, so you do understand the differences between those, and that's what Tim did, and that's why I liked this feedback so much, because we've heard from the Velcro people, and I wanted to hear from the hook and loop people. Trademark 3M.
You can get hook and loop in a variety of shapes. Here's the hook and loop website from Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. You can get them to withstand 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You can get them in a variety of thicknesses, widths, lengths. You can get flame retardant hook and loop. So don't think of it as Velcro. Think of it as hook and loop. So I guess Apple's using hook and loop, not Velcro for their wrist straps. Now, I should say that I'm fine, but if Governor John Hickenloop of Colorado does win in his bid for presidency in 2020, then we're going to have a problem.
We will have a problem.
President Hookenlooper.
And the last thing I'll say is this. To be clear, the thing that I buy on Amazon every time is Velcro brand.
Okay.
One wrap thin ties.
And I think for most people, the distinction between Velcro and hook and loop is not perceivable.
Exactly.
But we will acknowledge there is a difference. I feel like hook and loop sounds kind of, a little pretentious.
Yeah. It's like someone who, instead of saying, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that makes sense there.
You know what reminds me of? What does Apple
like,
call its rubber bands?
Oh, there you go. It's a
fluoroelastomer.
Yeah.
It's called rubber. Now, see, somebody's going to call from the National Rubber Manufacturing Association and say, I'm sorry, but fluoroelastomer is not rubber. Matheson, our last question of the day. I was watching iOS Today, episode 454. You got a question asking how to block unknown callers. Yeah, it's not in iOS 12, but it will be built into iOS 13. That's really a good news. Have you played with that? I guess I don't have iOS 13 on my iPhone. So what is it? How does it work?
Well, you go into settings and you tap on phone, and then in there is a category called call silencing and blocked contacts. Yeah. And there's a switch now that says silence unknown callers. So if you get a phone call from an unknown caller, it's not going to ring your iPhone. It will still be a call, but it's going to be sent to voicemail. So you can see that someone from an unknown number called you and they have to leave a voicemail or not leave a voicemail, but you don't have to worry about it interrupting your phone doing other things while you're on there.
Oh my God. We have somebody who works for FKM to say, I'm sorry, it's not fluoroelastomer. It's Viton, a synthetic rubber and fluoropolymer elastomer commonly used in O-rings.
Fluoropolymer elastomer. Maybe they made a portmanteau. Fluoroelastomer.
I just want to tell you, if you've noticed, and I think a few of you have, how nice my teeth have been looking. It's because I am using Crest's 3D white strips. This is such a great way to whiten your teeth at a fraction of the cost of going to the dentist. It's a lot easier and faster too, but it's the same technique that dentists use. It removes up to 10 years of tough set-in stains from coffee, wine, to give you noticeably whiter teeth, guaranteed. Hundreds of dollars less than those expensive dental treatments for similar results. And let me show you how easy it is to use. I just opened my packet. You get 7 packets. You do a week's worth. And I just opened my packet. In the packet are the strips. They're lightly adhesive. They're like Post-it notes for your teeth. They go right on there like that. And that's my top teeth. I'll put the bottom teeth on. What I always do is I watch an episode of West Wing because it's exactly an hour. And as I'm watching it, the white strip does its work. And then at the end of the hour, this is so cool. It also comes with this. This is the Crest White Strip Light, the blue light that gives you advanced teeth whitening. So there's the same ingredient dentists use in this strip. Without a tray, the messy solutions and all that. It's hydrogen peroxide, but it's stored in this gel strip. It's working on my teeth right now. After the hour, I put the blue light in. I turn it on. It'll beep at me. It's done the extra whitening. It's really, really cool. You'll see dentists using this, but this comes in the kit. Guaranteed to deliver 100% noticeably whiter teeth. And if you're not satisfied, your money back. It's Crest. You trust it. Crest 3D White Strips. Get $20 off your first Crest 3D Whitening Strip Kit by going to crestwhitesmile.com. But you got to use our promo code iOS today at checkout. Free shipping is included. So this is a really good deal. Just to get you to try it. $20 off your first Crest 3D Whitening Strip Kit. Go to crestwhitesmile.com. The promo code iOS today. Please use that. That way they know you saw it here. Free shipping is included. Go out and get your 3D white strips, including the light, and get it for $20 less at crestwhitesmile.com. Promo code iOS today. This is great. I'm going to do this every few months because I feel like, I think it's taken years. Well, let me show you the before picture because I think this has taken years off of my life. No, that's wrong. Do you have the before picture, John?
Oh my God.
Look how much younger I look now that my teeth are nice and white. Years off my life. Crest White Strips.
Oh, Lord.
CrestWhiteSmile.com. Put on your hat, my friend.
All right.
Wait a minute. My hat's on the floor.
So is mine.
All right. You reach down and get yours first.
What with the Privacy Focus episode, I thought.
Oh, you've got a tinfoil hat.
Yes.
Wow. I wish I had
made this today.
I think I have a tinfoil fez. Would that count?
Yeah, I think that counts. That'll keep all the radiation out.
Why, you may ask, are Mikah and Leah wearing silly hats? You might well ask.
I know why.
Why, Mikah?
Because
it's App Cap time. Woo!
Woo! In honor of our app picks, we slap on a cap and we talk about them.
Yeah. So what is your... That's really, really cute. Honestly, you look like a chicken leg that's been in the oven a little too long.
I love it. I do. Yeah. It also gives me a little bit of that small child with propeller cap vibe.
It has that vibe.
Kind of
yes, it does.
Youngs me up.
Did your mom make this for you, Micah?
No, this one I made this morning. So I can't say that Mom made it, but she's got some other ideas in the works. That's for sure. That's her thing now. So the app that I'm talking about is called Momento. It's free. It does offer in-app purchases. But in fact, on the App Store, it's listed as GIF Maker by Momento. Or for those of you out there who are about to get mad at me, GIF Maker by Momento. This app is a lot of fun. It's a simple thing. There's nothing too complicated about it. It can take a series of images and immediately make a GIF out of it. It can take your live photos and make those into GIFs. It can take all these different things, and it automatically, whenever you give it access to your photos, speaking of privacy, will show you a bunch of different options. And so there was a photo that I took of my partner Luke, and he really likes donuts. Donuts are very important. And there's
have you, by the way, since you're moving out here, have you checked whether we have decent donuts? I think you need to do a little donut survey.
You're right. See, the problem is I can't eat most donuts.
Me neither. We have to find somebody who likes donuts.
Carb-free donuts.
Patrick Delahanty tells me that we do have good donuts here. There's a little company you might have heard of called Dunkin'.
Oh, but that doesn't count. That's a mainstream company.
That's a good donut. All right. Yeah, we also have Kenny's Donuts, spelled with one N.
Oh, okay.
You know what? If Luke is in any way unhappy, I will buy him. I always wanted one of these anyway. You never see those little mini donut making machines?
Oh, yeah.
I will buy him a mini donut maker.
That's awesome. I'm getting upset because
your GIF maker's not GIFing?
It is, but I was trying to find the photo in my photo library, and it's not playing for some reason. The photo has decided that it doesn't want to. Well, I can do it.
So I've opened my library, and actually, this is kind of cool. It actually knows which of my
there was one of me.
which of my photos have enough in here to make something. So it's actually I was talking to my mom on Skype, and I accidentally recorded it. Now I can make Mom a animated GIF.
Yeah, see all these options down at the bottom. I'll really quickly show you. I could add some
music. I could have augmented what is the augmented reality? Oh, look at that.
See the donuts? That's the augmented reality thing. So it found the edges of Luke's shirt.
Who's the hottie?
And it's making it come out of the back of his shirt. See, those donuts are flapping around everywhere.
There's donuts flying out of his shirt.
Yeah.
My mom is amazed. By the way, I have acquired a tinfoil hat in honor of your tinfoil hat. This is cool. So it actually can go out and see. For instance, a lot of times when you use the iPhone, you take multiple pictures, right? So this is Lisa blowing out her birthday candles. Maybe not the greatest, but you can try other ones. I have a lot of. Apparently, at one point, I was really posing for my selfies, and I took several images of me at the same time. So show me some of the things I can do here. I can put a frame on it.
You can add a frame to the outside. That is a premium feature. So again, we talked about in-app purchases.
Okay.
But the AR is not a premium feature, and that's one of my favorite ones.
I don't understand. What would AR do?
Well, that's where it can find.
That's where those donuts were coming from?
The donuts, yeah. It finds kind of the edges of the person that's in frame and then makes it so that it looks like it was kind of built into the photo.
Look,
see,
I'm on fire.
Your hotness isn't in front of your head. Your hotness is sort of in the background behind you.
This is kind of cool. So the hearts are coming out from behind my head.
Yeah, and depending on what you use, it can interact with the photo in different ways. So I like that one.
Kind of cool.
Or
donuts too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Donies. You can add music, so that way you would export it as a video as opposed to a GIF or a live photo, which I think is kind of neat that you can export it as a live photo. So it can use Apple's sort of built-in thing.
How much does it cost for the premium features?
Oh, the premium features. And see, I got in on this. I'm grandfathered in for a while. I
slowed it down a little bit. It looks a little bit better there. Yeah.
You can get it for a one-time purchase of $80. That's for the rest of life. $10 a month or a one-time or an annual plan of $48. It is rather expensive for if you want to have all of the features. I guess if you, I kind of think of it as somebody who's like a social media account manager, where you're probably trying to take GIFs a lot and share them on social media and whatnot. It's not necessarily those premium features, I think. I have to say,
this is pretty good to have the donuts coming out of my head.
Yeah, isn't that fun? That it took the photo, it figured out what was the foreground and the background.
Yeah, it did a good job. I like this that I can pick from. Is it movies or is just wherever? All right, let's do you, Mikah. All right.
It is movies. It is a series of photos and live photos.
So this is a video I took. So I could loop it, which I think is good, or I think bounce. I like bounce.
I love bounce. Yeah. Bounce is my favorite
because then it kind of looks continuous. It looks like you're never going to stop talking. And then what should I wonder if this will work because this is a picture of you on the TV. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to put something. Oh yeah, it kind of does. It's got little Cheerios coming down from the sky. That's good. Little confetti. That's good. That's good. Ooh, what else could I do to this? Should I speed it up?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is speed it up.
Because it doesn't speed up the background; it just speeds up you. So the background continues to fall at the same speed. I like that. Cool. This is really nice. I like this.
And then go ahead and click save.
Yeah.
Because this is the part that I want to make sure people see these different options for HD.
Oh, I can make it square.
Yeah,
Instagram.
So perfect for social media.
Yeah.
And then 3 different options: save as a GIF, save as a video, or save as a live photo. I like that live photo is an option here, given that usually only comes from Apple.
That's an Apple feature: save as a GIF, video, or live photo. Oh, this is actually really good. It's a little $80 is a little pricey.
Yeah, it is a little pricey, and that's why I said when it comes to sort of the other features that this app offers, I really think it's more for a social media manager, somebody like that, where they're not paying this purchase price on their own, but for the standard features, especially with the AR being free, that one's kind of fun just to quickly add a little bit of dynamics to the background of a photo that you're taking.
And if you're an influencer, it's probably worth that money, $80.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, search for not Momento, because Momento is another app that's very popular. Search for GIF Maker by Momento, and you'll be able to find it a little easier. Apple's search still leaves a bit to be desired. Oh, look at that.
When I was visiting Google and my friend Yasmin.
Oh, that's so cool, with donuts flying and noodles. Pasta,
confetti,
all sorts of stuff. I love that. That's fun. Yeah, I could see you. I could see using this if you were an Instagrammer or like to do stories and that kind of thing. All right, we were talking privacy. I want to continue the privacy conversation. If you're using an iOS device, Safari is and always will be your default browser, but it doesn't mean you have to use Safari all the time. You can have other browsers, and there are some very good browsers. I've become, on every other platform, including Mac, Windows, and Linux, and even iOS and Android, a Firefox fan. Firefox on the desktop gives you a lot of really great privacy features, and they seem to be getting better all the time. But they also make a really interesting app for iOS that's called Firefox Focus, Focus. It is the Firefox browser, but it's always in private mode. It has ad blockers. It is very secure, very private. And because you can just keep it on your iPad as an icon, when you want to surf privately, let's see, maybe you want to snoop around on Mikah's Chihuahuas. Do you think if I search for that?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I will find any Chihuahuas? What's good and bad about Chihuahua dogs? Okay.
Everything they say that's bad is wrong.
So they're all good all the time. Let me talk about some of the features built into this. It has built-in tracking protection, so you can block ad trackers, analytics trackers, social trackers, and even other content trackers. Remember, sometimes this will break websites. That's why they put a warning up. But if you really want to be private, that's a great thing to have. Blocking web fonts isn't so much about privacy, although, of course, if there are web fonts on a website, the server that serves those fonts will know your existence and can note your location. But blocking web fonts also speeds up browsing. We use web fonts. If you go to twit.tv, we purchased a very nice font for our main font, and that will download the first time you come to twit.tv, but you can block it. You can use Face ID to unlock the app. So because when you use a browser, it remembers the last place if you went to. If you don't want anybody to know what you've been up to, you can use that. And that way, only you would be able to open this browser. You could choose your search engine. Unfortunately, Start Page is not an option, but DuckDuckGo is. And, you know, I'm still working on if somebody knows how to add Start Page using the %s string. I don't think Start Page uses that technology. But if you do, email iOS today at twit.tv because I'd love to know how to do that. You could turn on or off autocomplete. The reason people sometimes turn autocomplete off is that's generating information from the server you're visiting, the search engine you're visiting, and sending them information about what you're searching back. You may not like that. Get search suggestions. A lot of people turn those off as well because, again, that's asking the server for information. You can create a Siri shortcut that will erase all your traces on nice. Here, including your history, your caches, your cookies. So this is true private browsing. You can even get Siri to be an accomplice in this. You can, of course, set your favorite site as your homepage. And there's one more feature that I find unique. This is the Safari switch. If you turn this on, it becomes one of Safari's content blockers. Now, you know that in order to do that, you have to download a content blocker. Apple doesn't provide any. And then you have to go into the Safari settings on your iOS device, go down to content blockers, and choose the content blockers you want to use. You can turn on Firefox Focus, which means it is also an ad blocker that will work through Safari. So this gives you additional privacy even in Safari. So another good reason. This is absolutely free. Comes from the folks at Firefox. They do a great job. I think this is a really nice tool for people who want to have private surfing available to them at all times. This is kind of an experiment. It's called the Firefox Focus Privacy Browser. I don't know what Firefox plans to do long-term with this. They are continuing to update Firefox. They haven't updated Focus in a couple of months, so I'm wondering. But I have to say, for right now anyway, it is up to date. It's great. It doesn't do one thing on iOS 13 that I wish it does. Safari will use the desktop sites on iOS 13. That was a new feature they added to Safari, which is fantastic. Firefox Focus, just like the old Safari, you have to request the desktop site if you're using it. On an iPad Pro, getting the desktop site is a really nice feature because you have a big screen and there's no reason you should be looking at a mobile site if you're using your iPad Pro. This won't matter to you at all, though, on iPhone or older iPads or smaller iPads. Firefox Focus. Now the Tin Hat Brigade must say goodbye.
Oh, it's that time.
It's that time again. We have our own email address now that goes to me and Mikah. That is iostoday@twit.tv. Please send us your questions. Send us your videos, your audio questions too. We love those. If you're going to send an audio or video question, keep it to 30 seconds or less. Make sure you start with your first name and city too, because we like to give you credit. But we would love to get those. iostoday@twit.tv. Mikah's website is chihuahua.coffee. You still do stuff there? Are you still putting stuff there?
That actually just recently updated. If they want to show it, it's got you and I on there, Leo, or you and me on there.
Yeah. And of course, you do other podcasts, including Somehow I Manage, the daily look at it's not quite daily, the weekly look at a Office episode. You're working your way through all of the Office episodes. That's awesome. And
yes.
Clockwise.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy. In about, 2 weeks, we're going to see you out here in studio. In fact, the next time we do this show. There you go. Look at that.
Is.
There you go. With you and
us in our matching hats.
You and me in our matching Australian safari hats. Yeah, that's awesome.
And I had to take Facebook off of there because I'm not on that site anymore. So it's been updated finally.
Good for you. Finally got off of that. So 2 weeks from now, you'll be here?
Yeah. Well, I think that's next week, actually.
Next week?
Yeah, let me see.
How exciting.
Double check.
I think you're right.
Oh, no. It is 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
By
August 1st.
By August 1st, I will be there. I'll be square.
That will be the first iOS Today episode with the new regime fully in place.
Indeed. Mwahaha.
Thank you, Mikah Sargent. It's always a pleasure. You can watch us do iOS Today. Again, we did this one on Saturday because I'm leaving town, but normally we do it Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern Time, 1600 UTC. You can watch it live or listen to it live on our streams. That's twit.tv/live. Or ask your Echo. Say, Echo, play Twit Live. And in most cases, the Echo will play Twit Live. So if you're doing that around 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, you might hear us do the show with all warts and all. Pre-edited.
What a show.
Pre-edited version. Yeah, you'll also be able to download edited versions at twit.tv/iOS. Best thing to do, though, subscribe. We have audio and video available. Just use your favorite podcast application and search for iOS Today. That way you'll get it the minute it's available each and every week. Thank you, Mikah Sargent.
And thank you. Thank you, Leo Laporte.
I'm over here. Thank
Where
you
are ya?
for joining us on iOS Today. Bye-bye, everybody.